The affair child doesn't get a say in this. My father didn't even try to lower his voice. The words landed in the middle of the room, like something everyone had been waiting to hear out loud. No one looked surprised. My aunt kept stirring her tea. My cousins suddenly found the table more interesting than my face. And my mother, she stayed quiet, like always. 28 years. That's how long I had lived inside a story I never wrote. The mistake. The proof. The reason everything fell apart. And today, at my grandfather's will reading, it finally became official, at least in their minds. You've already taken enough from this family, my father added, leaning back like he'd just stated a simple fact. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Taken. I almost laughed at that. Because if there was one thing I had learned growing up around them, it was this. People will create a version of you that makes their own guilt easier to live with. I looked around the room slowly. Not one person questioned him. Not one person asked for proof. They didn't need it. The story had been repeated enough times to become truth. And in that moment, something inside me didn't break. It settled. Calm, clear, quiet. I reached into my bag and felt the edge of the envelope I had been carrying for weeks. I had imagined this moment differently. Arguments, raised voices, finally defending myself after years of silence. But sitting there, watching how certain they all were, I realized something. They didn't want the truth. They wanted someone to blame. So I stood up. No anger, no shaking hands, no speech. Just silence. Running away again? My father muttered with a smirk. I paused for a second, then placed the envelope gently on the table. I'm not arguing anymore, I said quietly. That was it. I turned and walked out, their certainty still filling the room behind me. They thought they had won. They had no idea what I was about to do next. I didn't go back after that day. Not to that house, not to those conversations, not to that version of myself that kept trying to earn a place I was never going to be given. For the first time in my life, I stopped explaining. I stopped defending. I stopped caring about what they believed. Instead, I focused on something I had ignored for years. Myself. It wasn't dramatic. There was no sudden breakthrough. Just quiet, consistent effort. I worked longer hours, learned new skills, took opportunities I used to doubt I deserved, built routines that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. Slowly, things started changing. Not loudly, not in ways that demanded attention, but in ways that mattered. I became stable, independent, calm, and most importantly, unaffected. Meanwhile, I still heard about them. Not directly, but news travels in strange ways. My father's business started struggling. Arguments became more frequent at home. The same people who once agreed with him began disagreeing with each other. The unity they had built around blaming me started cracking. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt inevitable. Because when people build their peace on a lie, it doesn't stay peaceful for long. One evening, I got a message from my aunt. Short, careful. We need to talk. I stared at the screen for a while before replying. About what? Her answer came quickly. The envelope. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. Of course. They had finally opened it. Or maybe they had opened it earlier and didn't understand what it meant. Either way, something had shifted. Because inside that envelope wasn't anger. It wasn't words. It was proof. A DNA test result I had taken quietly months before that day. Tested, verified, confirmed. I had known the truth long before they ever questioned it. I just never felt the need to shout it. "Come tomorrow," she added. "Everyone will be here." I looked around my apartment, my space, my life, everything I had built without them. For a moment, I thought about saying no. Because I didn't need this anymore. Not their acceptance, not their apology. Still, I agreed. Not to prove them wrong, but to finish something they had started years ago. The next day, as I stood outside that house, I felt nothing. No anger, no nerves. Just clarity. Inside, voices were already raised. Confused, defensive, uneasy. It sounded like the truth had finally found its way in. I reached for the door handle calmly. They were still arguing about me. I was already far ahead of them. The room fell silent the moment I stepped inside. It wasn't the same silence as before, the one filled with judgment and certainty. This one felt different, uneasy, fragile. My father stood near the table, the envelope open in his hand. His fingers were tight around the papers, like holding them too loosely might make everything inside disappear. "This," he said slowly, his voice uncertain for the first time in my life. "This doesn't make sense." No one rushed to agree with him. No one defended him. Because there was nothing left to defend. "It's been verified," my aunt said quietly. "Twice." That was all it took. The truth didn't need a speech. It didn't need emotion. It just existed. Simple, clear, undeniable. I wasn't the affair child. I never had been. The story they built around me for 28 years collapsed in seconds, and with it, the confidence they once carried so easily. My father finally looked at me. Not through me, not past me. At me. Like he was seeing someone he didn't recognize. He started, but whatever he wanted to say didn't come out the same way anymore. I didn't step closer. Didn't try to fill the silence. "I didn't come here for an apology," I said calmly. Because I hadn't. Apologies might ease guilt, but they don't erase years. They don't return what was taken. They don't rebuild what was never given. I just wanted you to know the truth. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. For the first time, no one interrupted me. No one dismissed me. No one corrected me. Because now, they couldn't. The room stayed quiet, but this time it wasn't agreement. It was realization. I turned toward the door again, just like I had before. Only this time, no one called me back. No one made a comment. No one tried to stop me. Because they understood something too late. I wasn't leaving because I was weak. I had already left long before this moment. I paused at the doorway for a second, not to look back, but to let the moment settle. Then I walked out. And as the door closed behind me, one thing became clear. They thought silence meant I had nothing to prove. They never realized I had nothing left to prove to them. Because while they were busy deciding who I was busy becoming someone they could no longer define.